Hello, everyone. Hope you're well. As you can see in the background, I've finally put up the pictures that Emily and my dad drew for me. And as I said to them, my two favorite artists on the wall now. I've finally got the brain space to just. I mean, it was stupid. I did it at 10 o'clock at night one night. I just said, Claire, I want to put those pictures up, and she showed me she had some special tape that she. It's like sellotape that was like double sided but super strong, and I just had to put it along the edges and stick it to the wall. So now they're stuck up there. That's all good. Ben wants to find a picture out and about to put on the wall. He wants to go art shopping and choose a picture because bless him, he knows. I think he knows he can't draw Sonic or the Hulk, but he was like, "I want to get you a picture." I'm like, "Cool, no, I'm happy with that. That sounds good. It's gonna make a new thing." I plan on just filling this wall with pictures and maybe the one in front of me and just having the whole room be full of cool pictures. But no, I'm excited that Emily and my dad have made me art and it's gone on the wall. Very happy with them. So, yeah, I hope you're all well. The title of this video is, I don't know what the title is going to be exactly, but it's going to be along the lines of the fact that I had a call yesterday to give a bit of context. So basically, because I'm waiting for my autism diagnosis, I had a chat with them. I rang them and said, and I think I spoke about this already, but I rang them and said, look, waiting for this is really bothering me. Like, it's a long wait and I'm really nervous because I just want confirmation, and I'm in a position where, if they can confirm things, then I can go and talk to people about it. I can get help with things, and sort out issues that are bothering me. But if they say it's something else, or they want to do more work or whatever, I need help figuring it out. So they were like, "Look, that's fine." And as I mentioned in the previous video, they told me that I wouldn't be anywhere near the waiting list if I wasn't a very strong chance of qualifying and being diagnosed. She said she's read my file. If she was to bet or guess, she would think that absolutely I'd meet the criteria. So she's pretty certain that I'm going to have an autism diagnosis. Just it's going to take, I've got to get through, they've got to get through 350 other people before they get to me. So in the meantime, she said to me, I'll refer you to a group called Steps for Change or Steps to Change. I can't remember exactly the name. And they'll basically talk me through it's like over the phone therapy stuff. They'll refer me to people who will talk and help me, and I'll have to do courses and stuff just to help me, distract my brain throughout the process. And so they sent me a questionnaire to fill out. They sent me a load of questions. They sent me some stuff over the phone to do, and it was like the first questions were all just about general mental health, like am I hurting myself? Am I thinking about doing that? All things I'm not doing. So that was fine. It was like, no, that's not a problem. I'm not worried about that. And then there was all these other questions about how much you worry about things, how much you think about problems, or, it was kind of like, it was interesting because they asked things like, when you have a problem, does it stop you from dealing with other things? And I was like, I literally did a video the other week about how I popped the big bubble of problems, and then I had all these other problems that I then fixed because I'd settled, problem number one. And it was just asking how your sleep is, do you get to sleep right, and all of this. So anyway, I filled it all out, and I thought, okay, there's maybe a chance here that I'm scoring a little bit higher than I perhaps, would want to. It's, I might have a little bit of anxiety on there, a little bit of worrying, a little bit of stress. And then they read out my results. So they were like, okay, we score this first one out of 21. This is for anxiety, and you scored 20. And I was like, what? I was like immediately anxious. Like, oh no. I was like, make it 22. And they went through asking me questions like, how are you with work? And I was like, work is very much making me, a problem at the moment. I don't know whether I'm coming or going, what I'm doing. It's, I need clarification. We've been debating my job role since November. And she was talking through me all of that. And she's like, yeah, that does sound like a problem. I can see why that would make you anxious. And then she was like, and what about your children? And I was like, well, I've got a 4-year-old, and he just feels like I worry about him all the time, even though he's not really giving me a reason to. I feel like I did that with Emily and Oliver until they were about 5 or 6. I used to just lay awake at night freaking out about them. So now I'm at a point where he's 4, so I'm thinking maybe there's another year or so before I stop freaking out about him all the time. But obviously he was ill over the weekend, and he keeps having little bugs and stuff. So he just worries me. He's little, he's fragile. It's a worry. I was telling her about the dog being old and ill, and the fact that she's just a constant, worry at the moment, and she's just constant going to I joked, we've been to the vets more times this past 12 months than I've been to my parents' house. It's ridiculous, and it's just all little things. So I felt a bit bad for the woman on the phone because she was like, "So what else are you worried about?" And we were on the phone for an hour. I was just like, "Yeah, I didn't really realize I was going to have this much stuff to talk about." I was telling her that Ollie's obviously on his half days and he's having trouble at school, and just generally learning to get to grips with the fact that he's autistic and he's got needs. And I was saying I'm also in the same position of things are just getting me, and then it got onto that, which was quite cool. We started talking about autism, and I was telling her things like at the weekend, I was Spurs were playing Chelsea, and obviously we lost, and I wasn't in a very happy position that we lost. But then they've got this awful chant. They've got this awful song, "Blue is the colour, football is the game." I absolutely despise it. It is an awful song. It's awful. It's terrible. It kills me when I hear it. And it kills me when I hear their awful Chelsea chant, when they just repeat the word Chelsea over and over again. I physically hate Chelsea because of these awful songs. And it came on at the end of the game, and I was trying to turn the TV over and the remote weren't working, and I was trying to in my panic, I got my phone out because I knew I had an Xbox app, and I tried to turn the song off, and the app wasn't working, and I couldn't get away from the song. And I felt like I was explaining to the woman, I felt like I was being attacked. I couldn't fight it off. And poor old Claire walked in. I'd kind of said to her as I was panicking, I was like, "Oh my God, I need to get this off the TV." And she just kind of heard me saying that and just thought nothing of it. And then I just was like, like trying to turn it off. It wasn't working. So she walks into the room just to hear the end of the game. And I was like, "Will you turn the telly off?" And I was just like, it came out like in such a, like, rah. And she was like, "Don't talk to me like that." And she started having a bit of a go at me. And it ended up becoming this big old, like, World War III, like, properly. We had an argument. And after it, I was like, "I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to have a go at you. I was just in a panic. I just lost it. I was just so uncomfortable with this song." It was like, I can't really explain it. It sounds stupid. To a normal person, it sounds dumb, right? But I heard the song, and it just sent me into a mad, spiraling mess of, I've got to get away from this. This is the worst thing ever. And I hate it. I do hate the song. But it was a weird reaction, and I know it was weird. But when I spoke to the woman on the phone, she was like, "No, that makes complete sense. That's called the fight or flight response. You immediately tried to run away from it, and then when you were stuck, you started fighting, but you started fighting with your wife instead of fighting the song or whatever." I imagine this is the sort of thing where, say, like Kev's done videos in the past where Andy's broken the TV. If I was younger, and I know not to smash my TV, I've got the physical strength to not smash it. I can't say if that song had been on much longer, I would have been able to avoid that. I think I would have been fine. But yeah, it was really overwhelming how much I wanted to get away from this stupid song. And poor Claire, I chatted to her afterwards and I explained the situation and said, "Look, I'm really sorry." And she understood. I think she's known me long enough to know that sometimes I will just accidentally sound angry at her when I'm not angry at her. And I think she was just feeling a bit low herself at that moment. But that meant I talked further to the lady about just different things. I said, "Look, sometimes I just don't know the tone of my voice or the way I'm saying things. I mean, most of the time I don't know the tone of my voice. I think I'm saying it a certain way." People always say to me like, "Oh, you," like someone at work told me that I always have a way of saying things where I'm right, but the way I deliver it comes across in a way that makes everybody go, "Well, I don't want to agree with him because he sounded so rude." And I'm like, I didn't realize that. And I think it's just 'cause I'm very direct. But yeah, we talked for an hour, and it felt really like, okay, they do understand me. They do understand the problems, the communication problems of someone like me, and they basically talked me through. I'm just having a look at my list of things. So they were telling, basically they've referred me to a work support line thing that will talk me through work a bit better and help me understand it, and maybe help me figure out where I'm struggling and what I need and that kind of thing. They asked me about caffeine. They said, "How much caffeine do you drink?" And I was like, "I'm not really sure this is a problem," but we talked through it, and she was basically saying, 4 or 5 teas a day isn't too much, and she said, "Just, but if it was 4 or 5 coffees, that'd be too bad." And I said, "Well, I probably have 1 coffee and about 4 teas, but they are pint mugs." And she was like, "Well, that's probably not too bad, actually." But she was saying, like, don't have caffeine too late because that'll keep you awake. And I said to her that I go to bed at night, and it'll be like 1:45, and then at 1, I'm still laying there awake, worrying about some stupid thing or another. It's usually when I try and put it off. I'm sat there, I'll start reading a comic or playing a game, and then I'll think, right, time for bed. Maybe like 12:30. And then when I shut my eyes, I immediately start thinking about things and worrying about things. And then I have to get through that half an hour before I'm able to sleep. But usually it ends up being about 1:30. And she was like, maybe don't have caffeine after a certain point, although I don't anyway. And she was just talking about things. But they're going to talk me through some kind of way to battle that and stop that happening. They want me to do like a every, I think it's Tuesdays. So it'll be within 4 weeks. I'm going to start this course that is every certain day a week, where they're going to spend an hour just talking through bits and pieces. There'll be a group of people, but I won't be like talking to them. We'll just all be pitching in. Yeah, I'm interested because I also spoke to her about the fact that she found this quite funny because she's heard it before. But I said to her, I didn't realize that, like, because she was talking about people's minds racing, and I said, well, I didn't realize that mine was racing because my mind is always active, and it's not that they're not going to put me in a scenario where I stop thinking about things. Hopefully they'll put me in a scenario where I stop worrying about things, but that I didn't know until I spoke to Claire, and I think I might have spoken about this before, but Claire's mind doesn't go all the time. When she's going to bed, she doesn't think about anything. She just lays there. She's not thinking. She's laying there. She goes to sleep. She's very calm. Her mind thinks about the things she wants to think about, and then it doesn't think about things. And she's very good at just that's that, and then that's that, and that's done, and that's done. Whereas my mind is thinking about the fact that I'm doing this vlog, but it's also thinking about work. It's thinking about Ollie. It's thinking about I've got a song stuck in my head. You know, I've constantly got music playing in my head, like the lyrics from "We Don't Talk About Bruno" are just looping in my head at the moment constantly. You know, there's just so many things going through my head, and it is. I think that's part of the reason I end up when I'm doing vlogs just looking around is because I'm just so much stuff. Even in this call, I'm talking to the woman yesterday, and while I'm talking, someone said I was late for a meeting because she'd booked me out from 1 till 2. She'd called a bit late, and I had a meeting at 2, so I was meant to be having this call in my lunch break, but I ended up running over, and they kept sending me messages going like, "Where are you? Come on!" And I'm like, "I'll be a minute," and so. I know that's a distraction, but then I was trying to focus on it all at once, and I was like, there's already enough going on in my head that I'm not, this was, I think she noticed that my voice changed a bit because I started to be a bit like, right, I've got to go. But she was saying they're going to try and help with that and at least help me focus on removing the negative bits. But I just feel like, as I've said to you before, the moment I fix one problem, another 10 problems come in anyway. I feel like problem solving is what I spend all my time doing. But, it'd be bloody. I don't. If they can find a magic way to silence my mind, that'd be awesome. I've tried meditating in the past. It is awful. It makes it worse because I've become acutely aware of how I'm sitting, my legs, my head, everything, and it's just a nightmare. It doesn't work for me. I don't know what the answer is. It's just a weird one. I did say to her I do not want to go near any kind of medication. When I had that when I was younger, I put on so much weight, it was ridiculous. I'm fat now, but if you want to see how fat I can get, put me on some anti-anxiety tablets or something because I will balloon. I'll become 4 times the size, and I'll have to move the camera back, and it'll be a mess. I don't want to become 4 times the size. You know, I'm unhappy at the size I am now. I don't want it to get worse. But yeah, it was just interesting talking to her about all this and thinking, on the positive side, great. I've got someone I'm talking to now. There's going to be a process there. We're going to go through the rigmarole of weekly meetings and all of this. It's going to fill a bit of time between now and the diagnosis period, which will be good. I'm hoping I'll start getting tools in place that will help me. I'll share them on here if I do get anything from it. At the moment, I think the only thing she pretty much told me to do was try and just monitor my caffeine, which I am. I've only got my second drink of the day now. It's coming up to lunchtime, and you know, it's coffee, tea. Meh, it's not the end of the world. I don't think that's the reason, because there are days when I don't have it at all, and when I stopped having it, I ended up being told by a doctor to not stop having it because it was regulating my blood pressure, which apparently it does. So yeah, cool. Other than me, I've got to figure out, we've got to do a parent feedback thing for Oliver at the moment at some point, telling the school how we feel about how everything's going. I've read their reports, and they're basically saying he's a lot calmer, he's a lot happier, everything's going quite smoothly, but they do need him to do full time. My opinion is, yep, he does seem happy, but he does need to be going full time all the time. And he did have a little problem yesterday, like he got in and his Chromebook wasn't there, it wasn't on, and they said he kind of had a bit of he just got a bit of an emotional morning, and he wouldn't let them help. And he said they weren't. I asked him. He said they weren't helping. They were just standing around being annoying. And I was like, well, maybe they were trying to get you to buy into their help before they helped. And they got to figure it out, haven't they? So he's all right. I think he is on the cusp of being able to be in full time. But I do kind of want to say to them, for the love of God, please stop making it a 3-week, lead in, only for it to be the end of term and then we lead in again, because that doesn't help. That's making it hard. The fact I've got to spend time in the day going out to deal with that, and worrying about him. I mean, but the thing is, when he's in full time, it becomes even worse, because it's a double-edged thing there, where if my phone rang now, I'd immediately think it was the school, and I'd worry about what's happened. And I can see the number on it. So if it starts with the 01 whatever, I know, oh, that's school. What's he done now? And I can almost answer the phone going, hello, what's Oliver done now? Not that I blame him, but you know what I mean? I'm not having to go Oliver there, and or them, to be fair, but that's usually what it is. Work used to find it quite... my colleagues would be like, is everything okay? Because they'd know, and they'd be like, oh, what's happened? And they were quite good at kind of... I wouldn't say laughing at it, but I don't mean laughing at it in a mocking way. They'd always be like, oh, bloody hell, hey. Like, how's that happened? And, they'd be quite good at kind of helping me diffuse a bit. But it's at that point now where they only really ring when it's something really bad, because I feel like the bar's been pushed up enough that the things he was doing in reception, they wouldn't ring about anymore. They'll ring about stuff now when it's like level 10 stuff, and you're like, oh, bloody hell. But we'll see what happens, and hopefully they don't. But I'm in that double-edged, I want him to go back, but I also don't want to have to deal with that all the time. But I just need him to be right. It's a faff. But reading the report, it does feel like they think they're on the right path. They feel quite confident. I'm not sure how I feel about that at the moment, because if they're saying everything's great, then I probably need to put them to the sword a bit more and say, well, if you think it's great, you need to make sure it's great. And, anytime it's not great, it needs to be on them. Whereas before now, it's always been, we're getting there. Now they're saying it's actually working. And it does seem fine. It's just not in all the time. But if they can guarantee it's going to be that good all the time while he's in, then problem solved. We'll just send him in until he leaves, and we'll figure it out later. But I don't know. It just feels like I'm gonna have to make them put their money where their mouth is at this point, and any problems are on them and all of that kind of thing. Which maybe if that's the answer, it will help me stop worrying about it. But yeah, it was interesting because I feel like it was a positive call. It was a very positive call, realizing how much stuff is going on, and talking to Claire about it afterwards. She was like, "Well, yeah, we are pretty hectic." But I mean, I feel guilty because she doesn't know how to handle that. She's not equipped to deal with the amount of anxious stuff we've got going on. I don't know what the answer is. Winning the lottery is the frigging answer. She keeps buying... Claire's had this really bizarre... I will finish up on this random tangent, but Claire bought a lottery ticket the other week. I think she won enough to buy another lottery ticket with it. And then that one won another lottery ticket worth. And then I think she won extra that meant she bought 2 with that. And then in that one, she won a lucky dip. And I think she's at the point where she paid for one lottery ticket about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and her final lottery tickets are tomorrow. And I'm like, if we don't win the frigging jackpot tomorrow, then what's this all been for, universe? Like, what's the point? But if she wins another lottery ticket's worth of lottery ticket, it's like, when is this going to end? And is it going to end with some amazing... I mean, imagine the blog where I'm going, right, she put these numbers on this date, and then 12 weeks later she won the jackpot. That'd be amazing. That'd make me feel good at the end of it. But it's always a sign. I feel like in our house, it's always a sign when one of us is stressing, because we always seem to start getting stressed about the universe, and then like she'll laugh at me if I go, remind me to check the lottery numbers. I put 3 tickets on, and she's like, oh, I put one on. And I'm like, oh, so we're both stressed, are we? We're both feeling a little bit rough. We've both done the lottery. And one day maybe. But I don't think that's going to be the problem that solves it all. And I don't think money would solve much, but I mean, it would help. But in the meantime, I sent my boss a message on Friday that I was really nervous about. I got Claire to proofread it. I rewrote it. I kept faffing around it. I wrote it out on Teams. I pressed enter. I pressed send. I thought he's going to ring me any second. And then he hasn't rung me. And it just says he hasn't read it. And he's talking to me in other chats, but it just says there's no read receipt on that one. So I know he has read receipts on, because I can see it. I can see all the other read receipts. He has not seen this massive message I sent him saying I really need clarification on everything. And I'm kind of in this position of, I don't want to push it, if he's seen it and he's holding off and he wants to talk to me later because I can see he's had other meetings, or I don't want to not push it and he hasn't seen it and I'm just sat here waiting, which, as I've mentioned, you might have heard in this vlog that I'm a little bit of an anxious person, but I am sat here thinking, do I pull the trigger and ask him? I haven't really got time to have him call me now to talk about it, but he is going to call me out of the blue when he finally sees it, and he's going to be like, what the hell, why didn't you ring me? But I'm like, because it's hard work, and yeah, whatever. But that's been hanging over me. And man, I wish Claire had won the lottery on Friday because I could have just said, you know what, don't worry about it. But yeah, I will wrap up there. Let me know how you're all getting on. It's a little bit scary putting a video out saying, I mean, for lots of reasons, because I don't want to sound like another thing that Sheepdog's moaning about, and all of that. But it's a little bit worrying putting out a video just declaring something like this that's happened. And I know I've talked about it before, but it never gets easy to just say, oh, by the way, this is another thing. I hope I'm not being a drag. And I know you always say, don't apologise, stop being an idiot. But no, it's I don't know what it is. Hopefully, a year's time, I'll be like, God, I was a mess. I'm all good now, but we'll see what happens. But let me know how you're going. Any tips, welcome. Anything you need, welcome. I'm happy to help. And yeah, just keep in touch. Usual stuff. I'll catch you soon. Cheers. Bye.